Wednesday, July 16th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Today on the show, we'll talk about TikTok adding the ability to schedule a post from within the TikTok app. Additionally, the head of Instagram stops by to explain how story privacy works when it comes to story highlights. If you've turned on story privacy settings to block certain users from seeing your story, how does that affect if that story becomes a highlight? We'll get into that. We'll also get an update from the YouTube Creator Insider team with what they're working on. Good news, they're expanding Hype, and I think that's a super cool feature. We'll also get into an interview that I did with Mathew Passy, talking about why podcasting is so important for building an audience in 2025. And after the end of music, I will do Wednesday Waffle, which is where I talk about a topic that may or may not be related to social media. All of that and more on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's start with the TikTok news. On Threads, Radu Onsku, who works to uncover features within inside apps, posted that TikTok now allows users to schedule a post from within the app. He included some screenshots, which show the flow when you're making a new post on the TikTok app, and there's an option there that now says schedule post. When you click on it, you can schedule a date and time when you want that post to be live, and it says, by continuing, you allow your post to be uploaded and stored on our servers until the scheduled post time. I actually don't think this feature is as important as it once was, due to the way the TikTok algorithm operates. Historically, I would always say on the show to post when your audience is online. Don't just post in the middle of the night when your audience is sleeping and unlikely to see your post. But the TikTok algorithm works so hard to surface the content that you've made to the audience that it thinks you will like when they are online. So I don't think this feature is as critical as it would have been in the past. Okay, let's move on to the Instagram section of the show and talk about Instagram story highlights, which I continue to hate. And every time I say it, you who listen send me messages saying how great story highlights are and how I'm missing the point of story highlights. And it's hilarious to me because so many times I say on the show, hey, send me a direct message if you want to chat. I would love to interact with you if you've been listening to the show, any feedback you have. And I don't necessarily hear from anybody, but when I say how terrible story highlights are and how I think they should just be removed from Instagram entirely because they don't give you any useful information about who watched your story highlight, people don't bother to update them at all, ever, and I don't watch them. Therefore, I think story highlights are terrible. When I say things like that, you are all nice enough to reach out and tell me how much you appreciate the show and how I am wrong about story highlights. That's a topic for another time, but let's get into this Q&A that the head of Instagram answered. Here's the question. If I hide some of my stories to a group of followers, and then I put that same story on highlights, will the followers I've hidden the story from be able to see it on story highlights? This is a fantastic question. I thought I knew the answer, but I was wrong.
So the question here is, if you hide a story from a person or a group of people, and then you make that story into a highlight, can that person or those people then get access to that story via that highlight? And the answer is no, they cannot. We're going to respect that privacy setting for the story, even if it's made into a permanent highlight. So you can rest assured, make that a highlight and feel perfectly safe doing so.
It's nice to know that Instagram preserves those privacy settings. Okay, let's move on to the YouTube news. Lauren from the Creator Insider team is, I guess, on vacation. So they got someone else to do the update this week, but they talk about Hype, which is somewhat like a super like that you can give on YouTube. And I think that is a really cool feature. It shows people that you really value their content because you're limited in how many hypes you can give each week.
What's up, insiders? I'm Preston, filling in for Lauren this week. Let's get into it. We're expanding the ability for viewers to hype at no cost to 19 markets, including India, Indonesia, Mexico, and select EU markets. As a reminder, Hype is a way for viewers to come together that helps creators get discovered and goes beyond a like. Viewers can hype your videos to show their excitement for your content and help your channel get discovered by new audiences. Top hype videos show up on a leaderboard designed for up-and-coming creators. If you're in an eligible market, the option to hype will appear on creators' public long-form videos uploaded in the last 7 days. When a viewer hypes a video, YouTube will automatically apply bonus points based on the subscriber count of the creator, so that smaller creators are rewarded more points to even the playing field. Hype will be turned on by default, with the option to opt out in the advanced settings on Studio Desktop. Additionally, viewers in launch markets can now hype videos from anywhere it is available, not just their local region. We'll leave more information on the new markets below, and we'll be ramping up the feature over the next week. Let us know if you have any questions. Moving on, we're rolling out 5 brand new animated GIFs your viewers can send during your streams. We have a duckling, island, nap, sandcastle, and watermelon. Our limited time collections of summer themed GIFs are sure to keep your vertical live streams fresh. Monetizing with GIFs can help you heat up your earning potential while you build connections with your fans and make your live streams sizzle with engagement. These GIFs are available only to creators and viewers in the US. If you haven't enabled GIFs, be sure to check out our Help Center link with instructions to turn on GIFs for your channel. Let us know in the comments which new GIF is your favorite and what GIFs you'd like to see in the future.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. There's more in that update. They talk about the trending page on YouTube, but I don't really think that it's very interesting, and the clip goes on super long. So if you want to check that out, I will link to it in the show notes so you can watch the rest of that Creator Insider update. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to share my interview with Mathew Passy, where we talk about the importance of podcasting in 2025 and how you can use it to retain your audience no matter what platform you're on. Stick around. Welcome back. I recently sat down with Mathew Passy to talk about why podcasting is so important and how you can use it to not only build but retain an audience, regardless of what platforms you are on. Here's the interview. Now, you might notice that we are in person today. I am in the Sweet recording studio in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, near Cherry Hill, and the podcast producer, Joe, has been excellent to work with so far. I'm sitting here in person with Mathew Passy. Mathew, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. It's great to be here.
Mathew, for people who are not familiar with you, can you tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. So right now I'm co-founder of a company called Custom Podcast Solutions. My partner, Joe, who currently runs the wonderful Sweet recording studio that we're in. We help podcasters with all sorts of different things, but namely right now, the big things are recording, mobile recording, live streaming, studio design, and installation. Basically anything that we can do to help content creators look and sound better when they're trying to put stuff out into the world. Also, we are the creators of Contap, which is NFC-enabled devices that will help people, especially folks who do things in the digital world, help connect people who they meet in person to their digital properties. And then on top of all that, I'm also enterprise support and sales for Libsyn Pro, the oldest podcast hosting company around.
That's great. You said so much there. I want to get into all of that. Let's talk about the podcasting thing first. I've been a podcaster for a number of years now, but it can be a little bit intimidating to get into podcasting, especially if you're a content creator that's focused on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And now maybe you have an email newsletter too, and we're adding another thing. Oh, you have to podcast. What are your thoughts on that? And how can people do it without being overwhelmed?
Well, it's funny. So Daniel, I have the pleasure of chatting with you from my show before this. So we had a really good conversation. I learned a lot about your story, how you got started. And one of the things you said that I think is important for content creators to think about is putting yourself where people are. And if you are doing a lot of YouTube, you're doing a lot of social, you're doing as long as you're putting content out, you want to be everywhere that you could be found. And that means podcasting too. Yes, video is way more popular. Yes, YouTube is a much bigger platform. Yes, people love visuals, but there are always going to be times that we can't watch a screen and we just have to listen to something. Maybe self-driving cars changes that equation considerably, but for the most part, right, when we're driving, when we're working out, when we're working, maybe when we're doing the dishes or doing chores or, at our job, supposedly doing what we're supposed to be doing, looking at a screen, we can't always be looking at something. And so there's always going to be a place for audio-only content. And so what that says to me is that if you're a content creator, there's no reason you shouldn't take your content and also publish it onto podcasting platforms. There are enough tools and technology out there that can not only that can make this easy, but even there are tools out there that can automate this. Literally, there's a tool that will, every time you upload a new YouTube video, it will take that, convert it to audio, take your title, take your description, put it over here, put it on your hosting platform, and whoosh, out it goes to the podcasting world.
What is that tool called?
One is Restream, and the other is, I'm totally blanking on it, repurpose.io.
Yeah.
That tool's been around for a long, long time. The guy who made it, really, really nice guy, really smart guy.
Hani, yeah.
Yeah,
I've had him on the
Hani.
podcast before, but to be honest with you, we talked about social media platforms and repurposing from TikTok to Instagram. We never talked about audio. Actually, that never even came up into the conversation.
I think Hani got his start from the whole idea of YouTubers or podcasters wanting to be on YouTubers and vice versa.
Oh.
It's like a lot of the base features of his platform were all about taking content off of your RSS feed and putting it on YouTube, or taking content from YouTube and being able to put it on, RSS feed. And so if your content is appropriate, there's no reason not to do that, right? Hosting can be cheap enough or free if you want to go down that route. And even if you don't use Hani's platform, which again, great platform, but we all know it's another subscription price.
Sure.
There's zaps and automations and all sorts of other ways that this can be done very, very easily. One thing I would caution though, is that when you tend to do video content, you tend to assume that the visuals are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? You looked into the camera and you did this whole thing about what your show is about. And I love it, right? You take the time, because the assumption is you have new people listening, right? You want to grow.
Right. So
So every time somebody new comes along, they don't know what's going on. And you take the time and you say to them, this is what this show is about. This is what I do. This is what you can expect. This is what you're going to get. Welcome. And so visual creators tend to not do that because there's either, a fancy splash screen that we could see, or, because we're watching a screen, we can look down and see the title and the description. But audio, you really have to lay out that red carpet, right? You really have to be a storyteller. And so when people are taking video content and transposing it to audio, I would tell them, make sure that you have the ability to also include some sort of intro and outro, right? I always tell people, treat your podcast, I mean, this is true of all content, but treat your audience like they're dumb and lazy. Tell them exactly what you're doing and what you want them to do, and then make it as easy as possible. And so, if you're going to do that, just say, hey, you are listening to an audio version of blah, 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 right? The Daily Show is a great example of this. They literally take the show that they did the night before and they publish it as a podcast, which it requires a lot of visual jokes, right? A lot of what's going on is in the upper third, behind the host at the time. But, they say, this is the audio version of The Daily Show. Go ahead and listen. So, they've tempered your expectations. So I think, yes, you should. Yes, there's easy enough tools to do it. But don't treat the podcasters completely like second-class citizens. Respect them and say to them, listen, this is video content, but I want it to be available to you in case you don't have time to see it.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Matthew's going to explain how podcasting would let you retain an audience even if, for instance, TikTok got shut down. Stick around. Welcome back. I'm talking with Mathew Passy, talking about the importance of podcasting as part of your content creation process and owning your audience. One of the things I would love to hear you talk about, and I'm going to need a little bit of an explanation for the audience who might not be familiar, is how podcasting works so that with a platform for social media that may not be available tomorrow, you can still own your audience on a podcast. Can you explain how that works and what some of the technologies are that power that?
Sure. So podcasting, the main thing that powers podcasting is what's known as an RSS feed, real simple syndication. I feel like, talking to a kid and telling them about a VCR, right? You talk to a lot of content creators and they go, what the heck is that? Even a lot of podcasters today don't know what an RSS feed, it just does it.
Right.
But so essentially RSS feed is this huge line of code. And once you have this set of code, you submit it to various podcast directories, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Podcast Addict, Podcatcher, right? All the different places. And then when you create a new episode, you essentially are updating that code with the new information. In fact, the first time I ever launched a podcast was for a radio station here in New Jersey. It was before there were a lot of hosting companies, right? We didn't know of any. The engineer literally had an XML document that I was physically going in and typing in the code of the title of the show today, the description of what we're talking about. It was weird. Today you have all these hosting platforms, basically content management systems, right? They look like any other email marketing, blog post writing, whatever. But basically you are adding to the RSS feed this code that says, here is the date of the newest episode. Here's the title of the episode. Here's the description. Here's a link to the audio file or video file. Here's an image that goes along with it. And now there's all sorts of other features coming out. And so as long as you are subscribed to that RSS feed, you will get the content. So if the nice thing about it is it doesn't have to work through Apple, right? If you are a YouTube creator and YouTube pulls your channel, you would have to basically upload all of your content to another video platform and hope that people flock to it the same way they flock to YouTube. But with podcasting, I can have my own RSS feed, my own servers. I don't have to pay anybody in the world, maybe my server, right? Just a bandwidth, whatever. But as long as there's a place for my content to sit and you have a way to subscribe to that code, you have a direct relationship with your audience, and that cannot be taken away from you.
Yes.
Even if you are deplatformed by Spotify and Apple and various places, there is still nothing stopping you or nothing stopping people from accessing that RSS feed and getting your content when they want to.
Yes. And even if people switch platforms, right? Like say they've used Spotify for the past 5 years and they say, you know what? I think Apple Music is going to be the place for me going forward. Okay, that's fine. They can still subscribe to your show the same way. You don't need to do anything other than they find your show on the other platform and hit subscribe, and that's it. So I think that's very different from the way the social media landscape is set up as a whole.
Right. When TikTok said they weren't going to, or when the government said that TikTok wasn't going to be available in the States anymore, there was a panic because if you're working off of TikTok, that's it.
Right.
Right. It's like having a store in the mall and all of a sudden the mall shuts down. Whereas
that's a great analogy.
Right. Whereas like I'm a hot dog vendor, I can roll my cart wherever I want to and sell you what I need to sell you.
Right. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. But if you want to hear the rest of my interview with Mathew, I will link to where you can watch it on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen. I will link to all of that in the show notes. If you want to stick around after the music, you can hear me talk about a different topic that may or may not be related to social media.
Instagram news got you covered, sometimes even TikTok. Relevant platforms in the metaverse ahead of the wave, without a break or a pit stop. Still waiting for Zuckerberg to give me the big job. Pause. Use trademarks and logos with Insta's permission, of course. If you like the show and you gain some good info, maybe leave a review. It's a type of applause. Just drop me a message if you want to collab. If you got some good content or you want to run ads, at Daniel Hill Media is where I am. TikTok, Facebook and Instagram.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. I wanted to talk about an app I've been using called Instafell. If you're not familiar, Instafell is an Instagram clone app, but with no ads at all. You can use it alongside the Instagram app. It updates just as frequently as Instagram, and it lets you customize the experience to be what you want. I wouldn't recommend this app unless I had thoroughly tested it and used it myself. So I am going to be linking to how to download this Instafell app in the show notes. If you want, you can remove Instagram and just use Instafell. If you want to use Instafell alongside your Instagram app, you can totally do that. I use both. Absolutely having a great experience using this app, and it's really nice to be able to control that experience a little bit more in terms of not seeing ads in stories, feed, reels, and so many other places. I will link to it in the show notes so you can check it out. As always, thank you for listening, and I appreciate you being willing to hear me talk about a slightly different topic.